Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Tape, brought to you by the Inside the Birds podcast network. Hope everybody had a good Christmas out there. From me and Greg, Merry Christmas from our podcast to your family. We hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas. I know the Eagles helped everybody's Christmas at least a little bit. Some people still weren't happy, but by getting the big win against the division rivals, I don't know if they're rivals anymore. They used to be back when I was playing, Greg. With the leather helmet days, but against the New York Giants and Brian Dable and that crew over there. And me and Greg are going to talk about that game. We're going to tell you guys what we saw from the tape. What did the tape show when we turned on the film? And obviously I'll talk a little bit about, as a player, how I felt about the game, how I thought the Eagles played. And obviously there's a little drama. The guys weren't happy in the locker room, get a little blow up on the sideline, and give our thoughts and takes on that. But as we always do, from myself to Greg Cosell, I got to ask him the question we all want to know. Greg, when you turned on the tape, when you turned on the film, what was the first thing that jumped out at you about this game, Eagles-Giants?
Well, I got to tell you, Clay, on the first play of the second possession, which of course was the possession right after, they had the Covey punt return and then they scored, obviously. So the first play of the second possession, I was watching and I almost fell off my chair. You know why? I saw under center play action. That was the third time all season they ran under center play action, and he hit Goddard for 18 yards. I'm sure you remember the play.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it because I happen to be, and this might be a personal thing just based on conversations I've had over many years with coaches, but I'm much more a believer in under center play action than I am shotgun play action. They were obviously expecting zone coverage because they called a zone beater concept, which was flood, which is a 3-level stretch concept, which is normally a zone beater concept. You can run it against man, which is what they got. And Goddard ended up still running his out route or corner route against safety McKinney. And Jalen made a great throw, put it right on his hands. But I couldn't believe it, when I put the tape on. And that was the third offensive play because they had this swift run and then the brotherly shove or whatever we want to call that for the touchdown. But yeah, no, I when I saw that, I was thinking to myself, I wonder if we'll see that more in this game, but we didn't. It was the only time. And as I said, it was only the third time all season we had seen under center play action.
No, absolutely. I think you're right there. And start of the game, watching the game, I just rewatched the film right now. Covey's become a real weapon. I really like this kid. He's one of the best returners in the league. And like you said, that play to Goddard, it's that little, you fake the over route, it's that in and back out. And Jalen did a nice job of getting the show started there and getting the ball right to his big tight end who had 7 for 71, a big game for Dallas Goedert. It was good to see him coming back. One thing I did notice, though, Greg, I don't know if you noticed this too or even look at this, but like in 2 tight end sets, and even when Goddard's on the field, I need to go back and check, but it looks like they're always running away from him. To me, they're always running to Stoll when he's in there, and even Calcaterra when he's in there. And Jack Stoll got 40 snaps this last game. Quez Watkins got 0. And Calcaterra even got 15 snaps.
Well, it's funny you say that because that's the other thing when I was done with the tape, or as I'm getting through the game, that really stood out. I mean, this was their highest percentage of 12 personnel in any game this season, and it really stood out in the second half, okay? In the second half alone, they had 26 plays out of 12 personnel and only 10 plays out of 11 personnel. And it was really noticeable. I mean, Swift, he only had 5 carries in the first half, but he had 15 in the second half. And all 15 came out of 12 personnel. And the other thing that really did stand out was, what I guess would be called the 4-minute offense at the end of the game when they handed the ball to Swift 7 consecutive times.
Yeah.
This is something we saw them do a lot last year because they had bigger leads and they would run the ball in the fourth quarter to close out games. Obviously, at this point, they were up, only 30-25, I believe, at the time. So this was a really important drive, but they ran the ball, and they ran it really well, and they committed to running the ball, but it was all out of 12 personnel.
Yeah, and you know me, I love some 12 personnel, and I
All those
think
tight ends do, Clay. All those
yeah,
tight ends do.
they got some good matchups out there at 12. 12
Yeah.
personnel, and I thought Stoll did a nice job of blocking. I think he's had an up and down year, but overall this last game, I thought that he played well. I think Goddard got in the way a little bit. They did run a couple of powers to him or counters. I'm not even sure if
Yep.
that's a power. They're pulling some guys and he's down blocking, pushing the hip of the defensive tackle and then climbing to a linebacker, getting in the way. But to me, it looks like they're kind of, I don't know if that's his forearm, but they're kind of running away from him. And he didn't have the same effect in the blocking game. But Dallas Goedert isn't getting paid $40 million to block. He's getting paid a lot to catch the football.
Well,
in that sense, yeah.
I would say this, I think 2 points to make. I kept trying to think, why are they playing so much 12? Because obviously, when you do that, they're not pulling this out of a hat, during the game. This was obviously something they felt that they could do. So I kept trying to think, and you could probably shed some light on this too, being part of game plans and why teams do things. But they pretty much got the Giants what we call big nickel defense when they went to 12. And Big Nickel had 3 safeties. Belton, the Iowa safety, came in as the 3rd safety with McKinney and Pinnock. So my sense was that they knew they would get that because the Giants have shown this throughout the season. It was not something new that their D coordinator Martindale did. They played Big Nickel a lot versus 12, and I'm sure the Eagles felt that they could run the ball effectively out of 12 versus Big Nickel and even throw the ball effectively if they chose to. So that was my sense. I could be wrong, but I think that, when you do something like that, you're doing it for a reason. And they got Big Nickel as the predominant defensive personnel package from the Giants.
Oh yeah, Greg. It's you look at the tape and you see how they match up to every single personnel package. You'll go over the first day you come in and you go over the scouting report, right? They'll give you the percentages on everything.
Yeah.
This is how many blitzes they run against 21 personnel. This is how many blitzes they run against 12. This is what blitzes they run against 12. This is what blitzes they run against 11. This is what blitzes they run against 10. Here's the coverages you get against 10, 11. And all these guys, they have these different personnels. They call different plays. So what I'm thinking, Eagles, they figure out, okay, Martindale, he has some tendencies, right? In 12 personnel, maybe he doesn't blitz as much. Maybe, they like the matchup because, like you said, Greg, it's big nickel.
Big nickel,
so they think that Stoll can take advantage of a safety and be able to add another lineman type guy on a defensive back. And that obviously gives you the advantage in the run game. And if they keep the linebacker in there treated as base, then you'll probably see some more throwing out of that package because you'll have more chances than not that Dallas Goedert at least could get matched up on a linebacker because you have another linebacker and not a defensive back.
It's a great point. You know why? Because when you're in a 5-2, which would be also one of their base defenses, where they play 5 across on the first level and 2 stacked backers, you're losing underneath coverage defenders because it's really hard for an on-the-ball edge player to really be a viable underneath defender in zone. It's just harder for him to get back to where he needs to get back to. So like you said, maybe if they got the 5-2 front as opposed to big nickel, it's very possible they would have thought, hey, now we can work the passing game a little bit. But when they got the big nickel, which came out of 4-2, 4-2 big nickel, they probably felt, okay, the run game is now set up much better. It's all, as you know, it's all matchups. It's personnel matchups. It's individual matchups. It's, and that's the way the game works. None of this stuff's done on a whim.
No, and Greg, and obviously being a backup tight end my whole career, there's been games I've gotten 10 snaps, Greg. I'm like, I'm going home, I'm counting my check, I'm looking at my check, be like, man, I didn't earn this.
Right.
We don't like the way they line up against 12 personnel. Maybe they're playing base, and then we stay 11 all game or 10 personnel, and we're saying, okay, we can really attack them in 10 and 11, but because of the tendencies. And then there's some games I'm like, man, I ain't getting paid enough for this.
Well, my guess is, Clay, that even those games you only got 10 snaps, you probably still put that check in the bank.
I definitely still put that in the bank there, threw it in the market, made sure I was doing something with it, and I didn't complain too much. But I'm like, man, I didn't even break a sweat today. But that's all because of the tendencies that the defensive coordinator gives you from the offensive side of the ball. And I mean, I can go back and count the games where I've had 50 plus snaps as a number 2 tight end. And I've had 40 plus snaps as a number 3 tight end in some games doing some move and fullback stuff. I played fullback for a year in Jacksonville. That wasn't a fun year, man. My head hurt a lot with those neck braces, man. But once again, just comes back to tendencies. The Eagles aren't coming in, like Greg said, and doing this on a whim. They said, hey, we put 12 personnel out there. This is what they're going to give us. And a lot of it has to do with you probably get a better idea of what the defense is going to do out of certain personnels and what you're seeing on film. Okay, he has a tendency to run cover 3. There's some zone here. They're not going to blitz as much. So to me, it makes sense, and it will fluctuate. And a lot of times it doesn't have to do. People think, oh, he must be mad at this guy or that guy didn't play. Well, sometimes it just matters what the matchup is.
Exactly. Well, my favorite run of the game, by the way, and I'm sure you'll remember this, it wasn't a tight end, but Swift had a 13-yard run in the third quarter. And you remember the play where Juergens put Okereke on the ground, and then he put him on the ground again. He put him on the ground twice on one play. And it was just one of those great O-line plays by Juergens, because he came off the initial combo block with Kelsey on the one technique. Then he climbed to Okereke, put him on the ground. Okereke got up to try to, go make a play, and he put him on the ground again.
No, absolutely. That was good stuff. What were your thoughts on Jalen's? I thought, Jalen played well. He played better. Obviously, he had the one interception when Goddard fell down. We'll have that on film. But the play right before that, to me, was a little bit more concerning than even the interception, because the play before the interception I thought should have been an interception. But we'll look at both of those plays. But to me, it looked like Jalen played better. I thought he had some solid plays in the run game, made some solid decisions, and I think he maybe could have gave the ball a couple of times that he didn't, or kept it a couple times. But overall, I thought he did a better job throwing the ball, getting the ball to his playmakers, and getting it out quicker and staying in the pocket.
I agree.
And obviously, the defense isn't the 85 Bears that they're playing against right now, but they had some players over there.
Oh,
so,
sure.
What was your thoughts on the tape of Jalen, Greg?
I thought overall he played better. I think that he's always going to leave the pocket at times prematurely. I think that's just built into who he is. He's probably been the best athlete on the field, Clay, since he started picking up a football. And it's just natural for him to feel, hey, I can make something happen with my legs. But I thought overall he played a better game. There were certain plays where they clearly got exactly the coverage they were hoping. I mean, I thought the Smith 36-yard touchdown, that came out of empty. And an empty Smith is almost always the slot to twins. That's where he lines up an empty. And, the Giants played cover 1, and Flott was matched on Smith, and Smith ran a great route, but the middle was wide open. Essentially it became pitch and catch. Like, that's a throw you can't miss. But, it turned out to be a man coverage beater with the open middle, making it easy. But hey, it's a 36-yard touchdown. Obviously, the biggest play of the game, as the game got a little concerning, was the Browns 32-yarder on 3rd and 20 early in the fourth quarter, and that came when Jalen left the pocket to his right, and made a great throw when he hit Brown in the outside void. It wasn't cover 2. It was actually covered. It was kind of a loose cover 3. But Flott, who happened to be the outside corner on that play because Banks had gotten hurt, he kind of rotated inside to overlap Zacchaeus in the slot, and that left Brown open, right along the sideline. And Jalen made a great throw, and you could argue that may have been the biggest play of the game.
Oh, that was an absolutely huge play, and we'll take a look at that one too. But that 3rd and 20, that was impressive. It could have saved the season right there, because you don't know what happens if they don't make that play, go down and score. So that was very impressive.
Yeah, because I think, didn't that come after the touchdown to Slayton? I think that came on the drive after the touchdown to Slayton.
Yeah, so that was a big play as far as momentum and everything's concerned. Hey, Greg, I'm going to get your thoughts on this. The Giants are probably going to give up the record for the most sacks in a year in the NFL.
Yeah.
They're probably, they're on their way to doing it. This team, this offensive line is bad. I think I go out there and get some pressure on the quarterback, watching some of their past tape. I did the Eagles not get one sack? I know there was a couple of pressures they had there, but What would you see in the defensive line there when you turned on the film and you're watching the D line? What's going on with them not getting pressure, even though the Giants did throw 30 plus times?
That's still a concern, a clear concern, particularly against an offensive line like that, which, quite frankly, you could argue is one of the 3 or 4 worst in the league. You take away Andrew Thomas, the left tackle, who's obviously a very good player, and this is a tough offensive line. And the Eagles are still struggling to rush the quarterback. But I think we saw some, different things on defense, and there's things, I think we absolutely have to talk about. Number one, they continued to play a ton of dime, and when they went dime, they brought Bradbury inside. So Bradbury and Roby played inside and dime. It was 4-corner dime, not 3 safeties and 3 corners. So it was 4-corner dime with Bradbury and Roby inside and Ricks and Ringo on the outside. And I thought that was really interesting. And by the way, I feel that they should be doing that. They need to find out if Ricks and Ringo can play. Again, the teams they play down the stretch, obviously the Giants one more time in Arizona, they don't necessarily present great wide receivers, but you've got to see if Ricks and Ringo, you got to give them snaps. The other thing that I thought watching the defense, I don't know your thoughts, I'd be real curious, but I thought Ben Van Sumeren really flashed on tape. I thought he played really well at stack backer.
No, I thought he did a good job, and I was, obviously you're surprised by that, but yeah, he had a solid game. I think the guy, he played well. He didn't get a ton of snaps, but I think he had 16 in coverage and did a solid job in coverage, a solid job against the run. And for a guy that hasn't played much football, I thought he really did some good things.
Yeah, I mean, he played every snap in the nickel. And if they went base, which wasn't many snaps when they went, because they played a lot of big nickel again, as well as a foundation defense where they played with the 3 safeties, and Brown being the 3rd safety with Byard and Blankenship. But Van Sumeren, he's a sudden twitchy athlete. I mean, he came downhill with burst. He was able to come to balance. He showed the thing that really stood out to me, given that he's not necessarily that big in terms of weight, is I thought he showed some strength and pop in his hands, taking on and shedding O-line blocks. I mean, I just thought he really flashed on tape. I thought he played a really good football game.
No, absolutely. I'm not a big PFF guy, but watching the tape, I'll check, see if they saw the same things. And I mean, the guy graded out as 80 on PFF,
I didn't even. I don't. Yeah,
I like
those
to do
numbers usually
PFF
don't mean a lot to me because I don't.
I watch more tape than those guys. You don't know, but just looking at to give something to correlate, I'm like, okay, like this guy did play, making sure that I wasn't dreaming. Like he played well, and I thought that he did a good job and really showed some positive things there. But obviously, the Giants' offense isn't a great offense. I think we can all agree on that. And the defensive backfield looked much better, in my opinion, Greg. So do you think watching the film, is that something that was the Eagles' improvement? Was the defensive backs getting that much? Was it the fact that you're going against, Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito, and Tyrod Taylor? I mean, 2 below. You're not going to play against one of these guys in the playoffs. I mean, you're going to play against better.
And Clay, you hit it on the head. That's what you just don't know. I mean, look, obviously the Giants do not present one of the higher level pass games in the NFL, either at the quarterback position or at the wide receiver position. So you just don't know the answer to that. But hey, they'd lost 3 in a row. They had not playing well. Look, you played. You know how it is. And coaches talk about this all the time, no matter who you're playing. People don't understand. They're still NFL players. You know that. It's hard to win on Sundays, or in this case on Monday. It's hard to win. And when they needed a win, and it doesn't matter who the opponent is. And does this mean that Ricks and Ringo are going to be great outside corners? Of course it doesn't mean that. But they needed to win this game. And in this particular game, Ricks and Ringo did not hurt the Eagles on the outside. I thought they played fine given the opponent. If they're playing against, if they were to face, whoever they're going to face in the playoffs, I mean, let's say it's Detroit, obviously, we can't sit here and say, well, they'll have no problem with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Josh Reynolds and Jamison Williams. We can't say that. We don't know. But, I think down the stretch against Arizona and the Giants again, you will see Ricks and Ringo playing on the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, like you said, once you start playing against the 49ers, you play against the Cowboys, you play against the Lions, how it's going to fare. But we don't do this a lot, but to take a quick look around the league, I mean, Eagles still got a shot at the number 1 seed, and I think they should win the division, and they'll be on the opposite side of the bracket as the 49ers. And to me, that's the number one thing you want. But even the 49ers, watching their game, they didn't look like a team that's unbeatable to me like they did the past few weeks. So I really like where the Eagles are at. Right now, let's take a look at some tape here, a couple of plays that we talked about earlier. This was the first play, Greg, that you were talking about with.
This is the under center play action, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they ran flood. Flood. I mean, 3-level stretch. You're going to have the outside receiver. His job is basically to lift the corner. You're going to get the back into the flat, and then you're going to get Goddard running the intermediate route. That's essentially where you want to throw the ball. It's really designed more for zone coverage because there'd be a void there in zone coverage. But the Giants played man, and Goddard had they're playing man. They're playing cover 1, and Goddard ran away from McKinney, and Jalen put it right on his hands. Really good ball.
And I love this route by Goddard. You see what he's doing right here. He's he's faking the over route, and that's probably the number one thing I like to see on this route. It's a route that everybody has in their playbook, but Goddard runs it very well. He gives a slight inside stem, and that is exactly what you want to see.
Yeah. And they run this a lot into the boundary, which is something we've seen them do under Sirianni. And another reason that you do this, this because you're anticipating zone. He's taking an inside release because ultimately he's trying to get the flat defender, if it was zone, the flat defender to lose sight of him and not sink underneath him, but to stay in the flat. That's why he's taking the inside release. This just happened to be man-to-man.
Yeah, and obviously you sell that over. I mean, that's the coaching point right there. They're giving you get this guy turned, sell that over out and come back out of it. A lot of different terms for it, but beautiful route. And look at that ball, Greg.
Perfect ball. Great ball by Jalen.
Wow, what a dime right there.
Really good start for him because this was his first throw, after the touchdown possession. Really good ball.
And you see what happens with the linebackers with this play action under center, Greg. Look at these guys. Yeah, look at
him hit it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's also man, so
man,
he's hugging up as well.
Yeah.
You can hit it more when it's man because the back's your responsibility.
Yeah. And then let's show another play here. This is just showing a little bit of the Eagles run game regardless. This isn't one of the plays that I had saved, but I think it still is a good play because the Eagles did a lot of this. And I don't think they've done a ton of this throughout the season, but you see what they're doing right here, Greg, in the run game. So, you have the read here and you're pulling your guard and tackle.
Yeah, gap scheme.
Gap scheme. And I love it. Downhill gap scheme.
So you're going to get Opeta is the kick out, and actually Mailata is technically the wrapper, but the way the Giants played it, Mailata did not work up inside of Opeta. He went outside of him because of the way the Giants played it.
All right, and here we wanted to show a little bit of Nolan Smith got to play some off-ball linebacker, didn't get a ton of reps. He missed a couple tackles, got a pass completed on him, but just wanted to give you guys a look of Nolan Smith standing up. He's a middle linebacker.
Played 8 snaps of off-the-ball backer in their 5-1 fronts.
Yeah, so right here he got in on a tackle, not a bad
It's funny. I thought coming out of Georgia, I think that this, and a couple of coaches I spoke to agreed, I ultimately think that this should be his position. Now, he's not ready to play it now because he hasn't done much of it.
Yeah.
But he gets swallowed up as an edge pass rusher. He's only about 235 pounds, and he's very thin. Now, maybe he'll end up being a really good edge pass rusher, but a couple of coaches I talked to really felt that as a stacked backer because he can run.
Yeah, and here he is chasing the ball.
Yeah,
good
that may be his best position. But again, he played 17 snaps in the game. 8 of them were as a stacked backer in their 5-1 defensive front. And he missed a tackle on Barkley in the hole. He didn't play great. There's no getting around that. But he hasn't done this a lot.
All right, and then we got one more that I want to look at with you, Greg, before we move on to a quick Cardinals preview.
A couple days ago, me and my girlfriend were trying to find tickets to the big game, and unfortunately, we couldn't. We didn't know if the seats were good. We didn't know what tickets were available. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy your tickets to the big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, views from your seats, lowest prices guaranteed. All these things are the reasons I love Game Time. They're obsessed with finding ways to save you money on your tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even up to an hour after it starts. So the event could be started, then you could finally decide, hey, I want to go. With Game Time, you can still find the tickets. Find exclusive fat flash deals, sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. So it's much more than just sports, any kind of event you want. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code BIRDS, BIRDS, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code BIRDS, BIRDS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Hey, it's Jeff Mosher. I love the fall because football's back, but it's also my busiest season. Between work, kids going back to school, youth sports and activities, there's just not enough time, especially to make a good home-cooked meal. That's why I love HelloFresh. They deliver farm-fresh food with pre-proportioned ingredients and seasonal recipes right to my doorstep. No more wasting time at the grocery store because America's #1 meal kit helps make home cooking easy, efficient, and affordable. We don't waste time researching new recipes and planning meals. With HelloFresh, the shopping's already done. The perfect amount of ingredients arrive with step-by-step recipe cards. How efficient is that? Plus, HelloFresh saves you time and money. HelloFresh is 25% less expensive than takeout, so you'll get a home-cooked meal without digging deep into your wallet. Don't forget about taste and selection. HelloFresh makes food for meat lovers, seafood lovers, vegetarians, and those who love variety. My personal favorites are the spicy Creole stew and pecan crusted trout, 2 dinners my whole family enjoyed, and we actually had time to sit down together and eat at the table. Go to HelloFresh.com/50Eagles and use the code 50Eagles for 50% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/50Eagles. Use that code 50Eagles for 50% off plus free shipping. Act now for America's #1 meal kit.
Isn't that the 32-yarder?
Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
I think this is the 4th and 20.
Yeah, they're
Or
playing
third
a
and 20.
loose cover 3 on 3rd and 20. And Flott, because Banks got hurt, Flott moved to outside corner. And you can see up top, if you go back, that he starts to overlap Zacchaeus,
Yeah.
which is the way you're taught. You're taught to read 2-1, as you know. And he ended up leaving Brown alone in the void. You see him overlap. You can see it clearly. I don't think he played it great, but, again, he's their slot corner normally. But he moved outside when Banks got hurt. And Jalen moved up in the pocket to his right, made a really good throw. This was a really good play by Jalen.
And a big time throw.
Big time
Huge
throw. Yeah.
I mean, big play in the game, man. And
they're going to rush 5. They block it up.
Yeah. Jordan Mailata didn't give up a single pressure in the whole game.
Yeah.
Thought he played well.
Big time play. I mean, if they didn't convert that, it was 20-18 at the time. Looked like the Giants were coming back.
Absolutely. That was a big time play. And I think we do have one last play. Let's see if we got this. Okay, yeah. So this is the play before the interception, Jalen's interception with Ertz.
Yeah, he almost throws one here.
Yeah, and you look, and he didn't read this linebacker.
No,
and obviously that's a tough one right there because what's bringing him over there? I mean, that's what you got to look at. Looks like he's just reading the quarterback's eyes.
Yeah, he just didn't account for him when he threw it. Plays like that, you just have to assume you don't know what's in Jalen's head, but he clearly did not account for that linebacker.
Yeah, and he's staring down, and the guy moved. Ooh, could have been a disaster. And then the next play, this one's not on Jalen here, but my first watch of this, I think it was an RPO, run pass option. Yeah, it's run pass option. Okay, and let's check out the read here. I think he might be able to give this, unless this is, yeah, the offensive line is blocking run. Okay, so he's got a chance to throw this. He sees one-on-one, nobody underneath, so that's probably his first read. Let's just throw this. But you look here, you got 3 defenders for 3 offensive guys and a deep safety here, so you could give this ball. Obviously, you see Dallas Goedert one-on-one.
Well, it's funny you say that because, one thing I've learned from talking to coaches is sometimes these are RPOs and sometimes they look like RPOs, but they're called passes. So a lot of times when I watch these plays, I just don't know what it is. Like he doesn't, to me, if you go to the end zone, it doesn't look to me like he's really that the run is involved here at all. Now, he may have decided based on the corner being 10 yards off that he's abandoning the run right away. But I think if you look at this is not really a meaningful run fake. It's not even a fake. So this is not really an RPO. This is just a pass play. Unless he abandoned the run element because he saw the corner 10 yards off. I think he abandoned
because he saw the one. My thoughts would be they're not going to block like that if that's not an RPO. And looking at the receivers out here, I mean, this is also an option to throw the 3-on-2, but he goes with the out.
That's one of those ones you just don't know.
Yeah, and he goes with the out, and
not his fault.
I don't blame him for that. You look at Goddard.
This one's not on him.
Yeah, some people will say, why is he throwing to a tight end guarded by a cornerback? This is Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert runs this route a million times. He just slips. Okay,
you got an athletic tight end. Every team runs these 1-by-3 sets where the tight end is the single
one-on-one.
Yeah,
big body, one-on-one. So I do not mind the read. I don't mind the throw. If Goddard doesn't slip, that's not an interception and definitely not a touchdown.
Maybe it's incomplete, but it's not.
Yeah,
certainly not an interception.
And I don't mind the read if it was a RPO with he's reading the sides there. I don't mind the read if it wasn't.
No,
I still don't mind the read with anything he's doing right there. All right. So Greg, looking at this Cardinals team, obviously they're in an interesting position. They got Kyler Murray back, their long-term quarterback. They hope. It seems like they're going to be sticking around with them, and they got the old Eagles coach also. They got the former Philadelphia Eagles coordinator as their head coach, and they've had a rough year, up and down year. They just came off of a loss to the Bears, where the Bears gave it to them a little bit. Wasn't as close as the score indicated that game. The Bears kind of ran away with it, up 21-0. The Cardinals snuck back in, wasn't as close as the score indicated. So what are your thoughts when watching the film on the Arizona Cardinals?
Well, just a couple of thoughts. Let's start offensively. It's really a run-based team. They run the ball really well. James Conner is a player I enjoy watching. I think that he's a really good back. Obviously, he doesn't have 250 carries, but he's averaging 5 yards a rush, give or take. He runs inside really well. He's got a little more burst than people might think. They like to run duo. They like double-team blocks at the point of attack. That, to me, is their foundation. Murray is obviously a dangerous player because of his legs. He's not thrown the ball particularly well this year, but he's actually a very good thrower. But since he's come back, his ball location has not been very good. He's missed throws that he needs to make, but he's really dangerous. I mean, you know this, Clay. You get a quarterback like Murray that can beat you with his legs. When you get into those 3rd and 4s and 3rd and 5s, they are much tougher to defend because the quarterback's legs are a weapon. And you have to account for that. So even though he hasn't been throwing the ball really, really well, he's still dangerous. The other receiver that I think stands out when you watch film, that's become a little bit of a safety net and a little more than that, kind of a true meaningful factor in the pass game, is the tight end McBride. McBride has really shown up, your position. He's really shown up the last 3-4 weeks. I remember doing him coming out of Colorado State. I really liked him. I think he's a 3-level dimension. He's not a burner, but he can run, the seam. He has a vertical element to his game. He's become a really important part of their offense.
Yeah, and that's why they got rid of old Eagle Zach Ertz, because what McBride was able to do, and against the Bears, he had a solid game there as well. 6 catches actually. And James Conner is a guy that plays in the run game, but also in the pass game. Against the Bears, I think he had 5 catches, 70 yards, a touchdown. He's a guy that can catch screens.
Screen game is good. He's really good in the screen game.
He's really good in the screen game. So I like James Conner there as well. And they, like you said, Kyler Murray's a weapon. He doesn't got a ton of weapons. They've been decimated by injuries this year as far as on the defensive side of the ball, man. You look at some of the guys, they have an IR. I mean, Carlos Watkins, L.J. Collier, Josh Woods, Kaiser White, Bobby Price, Rashad Fenton, Leke Fotu. They have a ton of guys just IR, questionable. They've been decimated by injuries. And, I think this is an offense that the Eagles should definitely be able to handle, and an offensive line. Paris Johnson has had an up and down year. They had a good game against the Bears, but the Bears have one pass rusher, right? But they've been struggling to protect Kyler Murray. They only gave up, I think, 1 sack last week. And overall, I think the Eagles should be a chance for them to get some pressure on the quarterback. They haven't been able to do that. And
they really haven't been able to do that. But you mentioned their defense. They're a fascinating defense to watch on tape because they do something really interesting, which you see a lot in college, but you don't see a lot in the NFL. And what they've done beginning about 5-6 weeks ago, I started to notice it on tape, is they will line up 3 defensive backs, sometimes 5, but 3 for sure, almost at quarters depth. So they take their slot corner, and instead of him really being over the slot, he's almost in a safety alignment as part of the 3. And Budda Baker's always in the middle, but they line up at quarters depth. And Baker will always drop down pretty much all the time to the passing strength when the ball's snapped. But it's something a little different. You don't see it very often in the NFL. You've got to prepare for it. You've got to decide how you want to attack it in the pass game, because they play a 5-man front as well. Now, they don't always rush 5, obviously, and usually someone drops out, either Dennis Gardeck or whoever the outside edge players are in the 5-man front. But that's what you get with them on defense, the 5-man fronts and kind of that quarters structure look on the back end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a good point there, Greg. And I think they're susceptible to run from what I saw last week. Obviously, I do a lot of stuff on the Bears, and the Bears put up 250 rushing yards on them. And 100 of those yards were Justin Fields just saying, I'm faster than you are. I'm going to outrun you. But Jalen Hurts can do a lot of the same things as Justin Fields. When you put on the film,
I think Fields is a better runner, though.
He's better. He's faster. He's a better runner, but he can do some of the same things. They ran quarterback power a couple times. Chicago did a couple of zone read plays, and then a lot of it was field scrambling as well. I think he only had 9-10 carries for 100 yards, but also Khalil Herbert had 20 carries for 115 yards and a touchdown.
They ran the ball. They ran the ball well. Yep.
And they were doing holes that you could literally drive a truck through. They were making big holes. So overall, I think the Eagles should be able to take care of the run game. And I saw last week watching the game, Cole Kmet was able to get open early before he got banged up. He had 4 catches for 107 yards. So I think this could be a game for Dallas Goedert to really take over that middle of the field like Cole Kmet did for the Bears. Anything else you want to add, Greg, before we say our goodbyes in this holiday edition of Inside the Tape?
Well, I'll just say this. Because of the quarterback, while he's not really a high-level player, snap after snap after snap, you've got to be careful in games like this because he can make those special plays that, sort of come out of nowhere. And you've got to be really careful that does not happen. So, again, you have to have a plan for that, particularly when it's 3rd and 7 or 8. It seems like, hey, you've got the advantage. But the last thing that can happen is Murray running for 30 yards. He's capable of that. And you just have to make sure that those big plays don't happen. Because what's the last thing? When you're better than your opponent, Clay, you played a long time and you know this. What's the last thing you want to have happen? All of a sudden, it's late in the 3rd quarter and you're in a 3-point game.
Yeah, because that team starts to build confidence. You got to get on them early. You build we can play with these guys. Like, come on, we can beat these guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to take care of them early, get them off their game early, and really show them. You know they're going to be a little bit pumped up for this game. I mean, their coach was the Eagles coach last year. They're going to want this win for them. They're going to want it bad, and I think the Eagles do need this one. The Cardinals have no pressure. They're not playing for anything. The Eagles, this is still impressive. This is still an important game as far as seeding is concerned.
The Eagles have to win these games. I mean, this is not – I mean, even if you feel that, hey, the 49ers will win their final two, who knows? But let's say you accept that as a premise. The Eagles are still playing for seeding here. You don't want to all of a sudden get stuck.
No, absolutely, and end up playing the 49ers in the second round there and having to do something heroic just to make it to the NFC Championship game. But good stuff, Greg, as always, and it's good talking to you. We got you guys caught up on what happened on the tape in the Giants game, and then we talked to you guys about what to expect going into the 3-12 Arizona Cardinals game next week. And from myself, Clay Harbor, and my partner here, Greg Cosell, that was an episode of Inside the Tape, and we will talk to you guys next Thursday. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Be sure to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at phlsportsnation.com and on Twitter at phlsportsnation.